welcome back. It's Investor Education Series on your number one business radio. We're discussing the listing of the Nigerian Exchange Group on its own platform. And I have here with me in the studio Mr. C.S.U. ANYANWU and Mr. Charles. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gina. Sir, I can see you are well dressed. Are you from EFCC?
No, far from it.
Far from it, okay.
This is a uniform, the trading uniform of the city gentlemen, the stockbrokers on the Nigerian Stock Exchange.
City gentlemen. So if there are women in the profession, they are also city gentlemen.
Gentlemen.
Okay, that's
very
very
gender issue.
that's very interesting. I think that's the only profession that is very gender sensitive. Everybody is treated equally because.
Gentlemen of the press is also the same.
Okay, I agree with them. Okay, yeah. Okay. So and a very important event happened today at the Nigerian Stock Exchange, and it's a very historic. I'm just going to give an introduction before we go into the discussion properly. So a red letter day for the Nigerian Exchange Group, as shares of the entity are set are already listed on the main board of the NGX today. This is the last major step of the demutualization process, a process that has been in play for the best part of the last decade ahead of the listing. A lot of things have been put in place. Let's look at the background. Demutualization is a process by which a private member-owned company legally changes its structure in order to become publicly listed company. The NGX Group commenced the demutualization process sometimes in 2011, but eventually completed the legal restructuring in March 2021 after receiving regulatory approvals. By demutualizing, the NGX effectively separated membership rights from ownership. The image attached below paints a picture of the key milestone in the demutualization process and shows the current structure of the NGX Group. Now, the NGX Group has three subsidiaries: the NGX Limited, the NGX Regulation, and of course the NGX Real Estate. And each of these subsidiaries are being managed by different managing directors, and they are all to run independently. Let's look at the ownership structure now. The NGX Group has an authorized share capital comprising 2,500,000,000 ordinary shares of 50 kobo each. However, only 2,499,970 ordinary shares was registered with SEC and could serve as an issued capital. 2% of the issued shares has been reserved for resolution of claims, while balance of 1,164,115,918 units has been allotted to members of the exchange. Members of the exchange refers to stockbroking firms, dealing members, and other investment banks and key stakeholders, ordinary members. It is the allotted sum 1,964,115,912 units that was listed on the NASD and will also be listed and has also been listed today on the NGX platform. You also recall that before this process, before today, the NGX Group PLC, we have been reporting its trading on the NASD platform. How was it traded on the NASD platform? The shares of the entity was listed on April 30, 16th, 2021 on the NASD OTC platform at 25 naira per share. It traded as high as 30 naira, but eventually succumbed to self-pressure to tick 30 naira level. Trading of the shares on NASD was suspended last week Friday in preparation for its debut listing today on the NGX. NGX listing. The firm could be listed. The firm has been listed by introduction today on the main board of the NGX, where it's expected to trade with the ticker NGX Group. NGX Group, that is the ticker. So our investors, when you want to give your mandates to your broker, you will know the ticker you are going to use. NGX Group. Shares outstanding 1,964,115,918 units. Listing price, which is very key, 16 naira 15 kobo. Market capitalization as at today, 31.7 billion naira. Listing board, main board, because you also recall that the NGX has several boards. We have the premium board, we have the main board, and of course we have the growth board or the ESM board as the case may be. So the NGX Group was listed today on the main board. We expect the shares to start trading today. Of course, you know you cannot force the market. Those who have, if they are brought to the market for sale, and of course I'm sure there will be a lot of trading today. So what next after the listing? We expect to see improved retail, domestic and foreign institutional participation in the stock, though with just 1.9 billion units listed, mostly held by institutions as the trading license holders today, and of course other ordinary members. One might expect some sort of illiquidity in the near term. Okay, so that is just a brief intro as to what happened today. And like Gina have said earlier, in the studio we have a doyen, of course, my very, very senior colleague in the studio with me today to look at some of the issues from today's listing implication, and we've seen the history, what has happened, and today was the final point. So sir, you're welcome again.
Thank you very much.
From my intro, you could hear, I read something about NSC now being demutualized. From your own perspective, from your own take, what is this demutualization for our investors to understand?
Well, in a very simple term, demutualization is a process whereby a once mutual organization becomes shareholders organization. Before now, the Nigerian Stock Exchange was limited by guarantee, and today we now have shareholders as opposed to members. Okay. So the name, the appellation members of Nigerian Stock Exchange will cease after today, because what we now have as shareholders, initially it wasn't for profit, it was known as not-for-profit organization, but today they have to make profit and declare profit and pay dividend like every other company quoted on the stock exchange.
Okay, so in a simple definition, it's just conversion of
Status.
Yes. So now we now have shareholders instead of members. So you know, in those days, as young stockbrokers, I'm talking about myself, we used to say, oh, my firm is a member of the Nigerian Stock Exchange.
Yes.
You know, and you see it only written in our offices, member of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. And anywhere you go, even our ID cards, you see it there, member of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. That gave us some sort of authority. I hope we are not going to lose that.
Yeah, well,
now that everybody can become a shareholder
of course,
of the NGX
you
Group.
have your money, you buy. By the way, today it moved up to 1775. That was the closing price. It's is a sign of things to come, that the price of the NGX shares will move up. Like you said, it's held by institutions. Few people may want to sell, and some are selling already. So we expect a price movement upward.
Oh, that's very good. So it has begun that journey.
That's right.
Of creating wealth for the shareholders.
That's right.
Very good. Now, we said this process started over a decade ago.
Correct.
And it was painstakingly done, and today we have come to the conclusion of that process. It has been listed. First of all, regulatory approval, everything was done, and now it has been listed, and we have seen that it's even traded today. It listed about 16 naira 15 kobo, and it has gone up to about 17 naira plus today, which, like you have said, is the sign of good things to come. But before now, we have seen, I have reported it here, we have seen this NGX Group PLC being traded in an OTC platform, that is the NASD. It was also in the intro. So why was it traded on that NASD platform?
Well, the main reason is that every company, and any company that has 51 members and more and bears the appellation, the name PLC, must, as a matter of necessity, exchange hands only at the NASD. Let me explain.
Okay.
So long you are a PLC, that's to say your members have exceeded 50, you have the 51st member. You can apply to use PLC for your name.
Okay.
Whether you come to NASD or not, your stocks are supposed to be traded there.
I see.
So it is not like listing as we know. Now, the moment any of such companies, we have a lot of them. We have the C.S.U, we have A-Liquid, we have NIPCO, just name it.
Okay.
Must be traded there for the exchange of shares between two people to be legal.
Okay.
So it is based on that people who needed to sell before this listing today approached NASD and did their exchange there.
I see. Okay. So NASD also played a very strategic role in trying to create liquidity for the NGX.
Very important role. Not just NGX Group, every company that is not quoted that has membership above the ordinary.
I see.
51st and above.
Okay, because we've had this situation where investors will ask, before today, I want to buy the NGX Group share. It's on another platform now. Can't you get it? So it was the NASD that made it possible for
such
buyers
exchange
and sellers to be able to transact.
Yes.
Okay, so we will say the NASD has performed its own strategic role in ensuring liquidity for NEPLC.
Yes.
Yeah, sir. So what is the implication for the capital market now that the NGX Group is now listed on its own platform? We need to understand that. It is listed on its own platform. What is the implication?
Well, the fact that it's listed on its own platform means that it will be trading. It will have to behave like every other share quoted, irrespective of the fact that it's on platform. By the way, in order to achieve this, they unbundled a lot of companies, about 3-4 of them, from the original Nigerian Stock Exchange we used to have, separating ownership, separating board from each. Now, each of those companies is headed by a managing director different from the other. Now, the fear that people entertain across the streets when we talk to them is, how can they be fair? Judges in their own case.
Exactly.
The truth is that even before now, stock exchange is SRO, self-regulatory organization, and they regulate themselves. But there's an apex regulator, the SEC, that regulates everybody. Even if they try to be unfair, SEC will not let them be. So there is a second line of regulation overseeing what they are doing. So there's no fear to entertain at all. But even before that, to make them properly self-regulating, they have delineated that function and separated it to another company.
Separate company entirely.
Separate company entirely. So there's nothing to fear. And anybody who wants to entertain fear, there's no need, no room for it to entertain fear. To the stockbroker, to the investing community, it's the deepening of the market. And we want such big tickets that we have today listed So the market now has depth to the extent of this introduction.
Wow.
So it's a good news to everybody, and anybody can trade. And I want to encourage you, get a piece of that cake. It's
The
worth
NGX
getting.
Group PLC.
Yes, it's worth getting. They mint money. That's the way I would like to put it.
I see. So we can also say it has created an opportunity for a diverse shareholder base.
Correct.
That is, international investors can also key in and have some part of the cake, which is the NGX Group.
Yeah, that's correct.
The ordinary man on the streets can also get part of the NGX Group.
Yeah, it's available
It's
for you.
available for everybody. Very, very interesting. Well, just also mention again, sir, because the NGX Group, like we have known, starting from the days of the NSC, transparency. We're told that the current chief executive officer of the NGX Group had to resign his directorship from the NGX Limited before this listing can take place. What's your take in terms of ethics and professionalism that they have displayed?
Yeah, I think that's worth doing, and it's worthy of record. They couldn't have done anything less. The fact that they project themselves as people into
World-class.
corporate governance, a world-class organization.
Best practice.
They did what they are supposed to do, and that was right. So we commend them for taking that line.
Very good. Yes, if you are just joining us, it is still Broad Street Radio, Investors Education Series. And Gina, what are we talking today?
We were discussing the listing of the NGX Limited on its own platform.
Because, you know, we are passionate here about our investors.
Yes, it's very, very important.
Because our investors have to be educated.
And from your discussion, it's like them going on their own platform is sort of maybe juicy offer for me because I can hear minting money.
Wow.
Yes, that's it.
Okay. What's your take, sir?
Minting money means that they create wealth.
Okay.
Great wealth, yeah.
Before now, when they were not for profit organization, whatever they produced was called surplus. It was not called profit.
I see.
And we could see the size of that surplus, even not properly regulated. But today with the regulation, you know, when you come to the market, we say that you have come to undress. There's nothing to hide again. You just have to be naked, and anybody can ask you questions. So there is room for money to be made.
Full disclosure.
Full disclosure.
Full disclosure.
That's a word for it.
Full
So
disclosure.
the room is there. The chances are they'll make good money. And you know, the good thing about them is that they just sit and money comes.
I see.
Yes.
Okay, so what you are telling us, sir, and for the benefit of our investors is the NGX Group PLC will now be like a GTCO, a Nestle, just like any of those listed entities.
That's right.
Wow, that's interesting. Gina, I think you should do that since you know you are getting married very soon. I think you should begin to look that in terms of your wealth creation for your marriage. Please. Okay. Okay. So, yeah, I think from our discussion so far, you've also been able to mention some of the benefits. And there are other benefits that can be accrued from being listed, being demutualized. Because let's look at another client. We have seen that, and let me just quote a study, sir, while you hold your thoughts. That over time, companies, exchanges that were demutualized, they looked at their performances while they were mutual. Now look at the performances after being demutualized. The study did not conclude 100% that they've become more profitable. But they say in terms of corporate governance, they've improved. And they've seen more transparency, more inclusiveness. And that is why it is a trend now all over the world. South Africa exchange has been demutualized. Egypt has been Casablanca, Stockholm, you know, even the London Stock Exchange.
Yeah.
So what could be other benefits that will accrue for the NGX being demutualized now?
Well, you know, it's a class thing.
Wow.
They now belong to a class of stocks that are quoted.
Okay.
It separates them. If, for instance, they approach a bank for a facility, the rates they give to them is not the same rate they give to the ordinary person on the street.
I see.
The likes of Unilever gets interest at single digits.
Okay.
You won't get it. So it's a class conscious thing. That's number one. But they haven't, what you mentioned about before and after, I'm looking at the basis for comparison. What was declared before was said to be surplus, and surplus is not even taxable.
You know that that's true. Yeah.
So you may have to determine a base to compare. Otherwise, it's difficult to compare the end product in demutualization and the end product as
Mutual.
mutual.
Okay.
So, but except if you establish parameters to compare, it may be difficult to say they didn't do well or they did well. But one thing becomes clear: transparency, corporate governance. You can't take it away.
So it will not be a closed thing for just members.
No. It cannot be. I don't know whether it's very free, but I still remember that there was a time they had so much money in this exchange, and members were given fat sitting allowance that caused a lot of problems. Sitting allowance that when you hear it, you balk.
No, but they actually worked. They worked for it. They made the money. So we can't say they were not working. They sat, or were they not sitting?
I'm not sure that they were supposed to receive such funds.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So, but having said that, in short, interestingly, they were recovered. Because when the exchange had its tough time, they recovered.
Okay, so
and
about
asked
those
them to return it.
okay, I
So,
see.
but those things now will convert to profit and convert to dividend at the end of the day.
So it's very obvious that performances in terms of profitability will improve.
It ought to improve. It ought
Now
to
that
improve.
they are now,
That's right.
like you said, they can now dress naked in the public.
Of course.
Okay. Gina, you have any question for Adoye?
No.
Okay. So let's look at some of the issues surrounding the listing on the NGX. Some of the issues that came out, they were supposed to have been listed. Sometime it was postponed, maybe the media and all that, and finally today we are seeing that process, to conclusion. So what are some of the challenges, issues?
Even though the Nigerian Exchange Group wasn't the first to be listed on the Houston platform, but it has these peculiar situations.
Okay.
For instance, in the document that established the mutual organization that was Nigerian Stock Exchange, their assets, when they want to fold, ought to be given out.
To a similar...
That was the condition. But they had to go to the National Assembly to enact another law that allows the assets to be converted to the new organization that was formed. Nobody envisaged those things in the beginning. So they dragged on, like you said, almost a decade.
Yeah.
Those things were there. If you have ever had a reason to approach the National Assembly for anything, you will know that it is not as easy.
Yeah, you have to
It
lobby
took
and
time
lobby. Yeah.
before they could get that one through. When they got that, it was a milestone. That was about the end of the troubles.
Yeah.
But today, we can say that this whole trouble is over. Today, by the listing on its own platform, the Nigerian Stock Exchange Group shares. So we have come to the end of it. And I think everybody is upbeat. Stockbrokers are happy for it.
Yeah.
And everything is moving well.
I see. So this is on the light time. We were told that most of the daily member firms were giving over 6 million units, as being daily members from the beginning up till today. They were giving 6 million units. That's for daily member firms. Then for the ordinary members, there's still a bit of confusion. Who are these daily members? Let's get some clarification so our investors can understand who are these daily members and who are these ordinary members.
Essentially, daily members are stockbroking firms.
Okay, they are the stockbroking firms.
Yes. Who, at the time that you got your license, you picked 1 unit of the shares of the then mutual organization.
I see.
It is this 1 unit that is being converted to the volume we talked about.
Okay. So for the ordinary shareholder, who are these people, these ordinary shareholders, as at that time?
Apart from dealing members, there were individuals. When it started, we remember the likes of Saliu Echukwu.
Okay.
Remember, the only surviving member is Williams, Akintola Williams, the accountant. That's the only surviving individual member.
Wow.
There were the AG Leventis of this world and all those companies that were in existence in 1960 when it all started. So, but there were individuals. As we speak, for instance, the president of the stock exchange is an individual member.
That's true.
And it comes from that class, people who becomes their president. We had the Abiolas.
Okay, Abiola too was the president.
Abiola was the president of the stock exchange.
Dangote was the president.
Dangote was,
president. Mokwede was also the president.
Yes, I. A dozen of Diamond Bank.
At that time.
You can name them. Those people were individual members.
I see.
And they now form with the stockbroking firms as the two classes of membership.
I see. So we also need to give kudos to the dealing members at the same time.
That's right.
The ordinary members who have been so diligent in ensuring that we have today a very functional exchange that is serving, let me say, the whole of Africa.
Because you can buy the Nigerian
exactly from any part of the world.
That's correct.
Okay, and we must say there's over 60 years of existence. The now NGX Group PLC has done so well, looking at where they are coming from.
That's right.
Yes, again, I must use this platform to recognize and appreciate the first female DG that we had at that time.
And the only today.
And the only today, okay. You know, I was a young stockbroker, so maybe you can just tell us what's her full name? What's her name again?
Dr. Ndi Okereke Onyuke.
I see.
Okay, I remember her.
Yeah.
Okay.
When I was in
She was an Amazon.
When I was in secondary school,
Okay.
they had this essay they used to organize.
Okay.
So
That's
I
correct.
represented my school there.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember her.
So she was there. She actually started. It started in her time, but had to progress under the new DG who became the new CEO. That's Oscar Nyema.
Oh, we must also give kudos to him too.
Yes,
He did quite a lot.
Oscar Nyema, there was one that was sent in by SEC.
Okay, the interim
Yes, I want to
administrator.
remember his name, the interim administrator.
Yes,
forensic
yes.
expert.
Kazobo.
Kazobo.
Okay.
Kazobo came in between, and then the stock exchange conducted an interview and had to bring Onyema from the United States to now become the CEO when the title had to change.
Okay, and your community, my community, the dealing member firm now trading license holders,
Yes,
shareholders also.
that's right.
We are very grateful for what Oscar did. At least the button was passed to him,
Yeah,
and he successfully concluded this
that's correct.
project. So we also have to give kudos to our senior doyens who made this also possible.
That's right.
Can you mention one or two of them or three of them? In no order of importance.
The bat of Ashon actually speeded up things. Ashon, the Association of Stockbroking Houses, became like the landlords. And Ashon, everybody that has managed Ashon as chairman needed our thumbs up.
Okay. Mention one or two of their names. Yes.
Alaji, remind me his name.
Yusuf.
Yusuf.
Okay.
Emeka Madubike, who took over from him. Today, Chief
Eziagu.
Ezago, who is here. These people contributed in no small measure. That outfit spearheaded the whole thing from the side of the stockbrokers and the stockbroking
So
firms.
they were a powerful trade group.
That was right.
Always thinking of the welfare.
Major
of their
decisions
members.
were taken under Obo Tudeko. When Obo Tudeko of First Bank of Honeywell Flammy was the chairman, was the president of the stock exchange. A lot of decisions were taken about his time. So we also need to give him a
Kudos. Yes, yes, that's true. Thank you so much. Before I let you go, sir, you know, it's not every day I see my doyen in the studio. Advice to the NGX regulation and of course the APEX regulator. Since the NGX regulation now is going to be playing a very critical role to ensuring that the average investor see transparency in the activities of the NGX Group, because we want them to be bringing their quarterly report, giving information to the market, because we know our market is driven by information. So we want that to continue. Since they are now a PLC, they will show that good example. So what advice will you have for NGX regulation and of course the APEX SEC?
First, NGX regulation, of course, you know, their major regulation is about the stockbroking firms. Even though they now be SRO, which they had always been, to the mother organization, the NGX. But I think the regulation need to have some human face. And there is need for it to have human face. We may have to say it to them.
Okay.
We work together for our mutual benefits. We must also be seen as part of the community, treated as respectable members of the community. You have done your work well, but you could do better. To SEC is the apex.
Yeah.
SEC had always weathered a big stick. I think it's also time to put in some human face in your regulation. The DG of SEC had always been good, and they actually played a good role.
Yes,
They played, because issues about license and regulation and everything that brought us to where we are, SEC was behind it.
So we
need to give them that kudo as well before we forget.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, so it's been nice talking to you, sir.
Thank you.
But again, I must give a shout out to Tino Awe, who is the current Chief Executive Officer of the NGX Regulation.
That's right.
Temi Popola, the current CEO of the NGS Limited, and of course the other CEO of the NGS Real Estates. Then, of course, our own one and able Oscar Oyema, OON,
Yes.
who is the current CEO of the NGX Group PLC, and of course, every other capital market stakeholder that have made this possible. Thank you. Gina, over to you.
All right, that wraps up the investor education series for today. Remember, you can catch up on this discussion on our Facebook page. It's www.facebook.com/postreviewng. And coming up next after this break is our stock market call over for today. We'll have an amazing weekend. Yes, it's Friday.
Okay, you mean the Broad Street Exchange?
Yes,
Okay.
like have an amazing weekend, and thank you